All right, let's bring in Terry Lundgren, Macy's former chairman and CEO. He now runs TJL Advisors and is executive in residence at Columbia Business School. Terry, great to have you with us.
Thanks, Melissa.
When you see these consumer confidence, consumer sentiment numbers, how concerned do you get? When you were CEO, did you look at those numbers and think, oh boy, we're in for a slowdown here on the part of the consumer?
Historically, no, because there wasn't a direct correlation between how consumers felt at the moment and how they spent moments later. In fact, I would say consumers have historically been really bad forecasters of what they will actually do in the future. So I would say I wasn't worried about it in the past, but I think that's a little bit different today. And you all have touched on it just now in your conversation. My biggest worry, Melissa, is that this is just part of a package of numbers that are going to eventually come out that are combined will have show some concern. And the biggest one of all, and you touched on it to me, is jobs. And so when consumers lack confidence and they're thinking about, is there going to be a slowdown? And by the way, the person my next door neighbor lost their job? I mean, I still have my job. Does my neighbor lost their job? Does that mean that I could potentially lose mine? And I think when that starts to filter into the psyche of the consumer is when there's going to be a slowdown. That's when jobs are going to be affected because obviously I'm talking to CEOs and they're thinking about the same thing. Do I invest in a consumer that has been on a tear for the last 2 years, or is that going to slow down now? And should I be a little bit more cautious with my inventory decisions?
Terry, I've thought for a long time that what scares the jobs, obviously, but what scares the consumer, regardless of whether or not they own stocks, is a precipitous decline in the stock market. When the 6 o'clock news leads with big sell-off in the stock market. And when that takes place over a couple weeks, we've seen consumer spending stop on a dime. Is that something you've noticed over your years, or am I just making this up?
No, because I mean, even though, well, first of all, as you all know, there's been more participation in the markets from the average household income in the last 5-6 years than there has been previously, and so there's more people invested. But most people, or many people who are working today, have got a 401k or have got company investments, and so yeah, it matters, and they think about that, and you're counting on that. They were counting on that plus the growth of their home as their future nest eggs for retirement. And if those two both become in question, clearly that causes people to slow down in their spending.
Hey, Terry, it's Tim. While we're the traders and we're supposed to really have a sense of where the market has punished certain stocks, I'm reading your notes and you're talking about, say, dollar stores and saying you think that they're still really under a lot of pressure. And one might argue they've been de-risked because these have been some of the worst performing stocks in the market over the last couple of years. I'm curious whether you think they are broken in terms of their model. And at a time where Walmart is taking in more affluent consumers and really seems like they're winning in all segments and demos. Do you think the dollar stores are under more we know they're under more pressure. Do you think that their model is challenged?
I do, but I think there's a lot going on. You touched on it. I mean, I know you were all concerned and commenting on the Walmart stock performance today, and perhaps you guys know better than most about whether they're overvalued or not in terms of PE multiples. But there's such a strong performing company on so many levels. I think with miles to go before they sleep. I mean, just watch what they're doing on an innovation standpoint, and they're continuing to reinvent what didn't necessarily work for them in the past. And I think they're going to get better and better. And that will negatively affect other retailers. They're just too big, of a share of total consumption for a retailer. So they will affect the dollar stores and others. The dollar stores are affected in many ways, though. I mean, think about that lower household income consumer that we're talking about here, the lower and low middle household income consumer. That's what they live on. That's what they thrive on, that consumer. If there's, immigration concerns to some of those consumers, they're not shopping. I mean, they're not in those stores and exposing themselves and out there spending money on discretionary items. So, is it broken? I think there's a lot of issues that is affecting the dollar store category right now that's going to continue for some time.
Terry, this may be an unfair question, but I'll go ahead and ask it anyway. And I know you're not a stock picker, but if you were forced to choose, would you choose Macy's the stock or Walmart in this environment?
That's a tough one. because I own both stocks, but Walmart because they're already doing well, and I think Macy's is the nicest neighborhood in a difficult, or the nicest home in a difficult neighborhood, if you will. I think the category of mid-priced department stores has been under a lot of pressure at both ends. The high end, the specialty stores, the brands opening their own direct to consumer opportunities with physical stores as well as direct to consumer on. And so I think they've been under pressure. But I think now you're seeing more and more of those, the mid-tier, particularly the lower mid-tier. If I can point to a couple like Penny's, of course, has been obviously under tremendous pressure. Kohl's been under a lot of pressure. I think Macy's can actually take share from those. But I think Macy's has some work to do first to get their house in order. I have a lot of confidence in Tony Spring that he's going to do just that. I've talked to him about his strategies, believe totally that he's on the right track. So given the time that he's got, I believe that they will be able to take share from some of the others in the category.